Are we live yet? It's always a bit
Looks like we're
tricky.
live. Got a
See?
little message there. How exciting.
Perfect. I don't see the counter. Usually I see a counter that says like, oh, you're live. I don't see it yet, but we are here. So welcome everyone. So good to see you here today as we are talking about a lot of interesting topics. We will be talking about camera confidence today, about hook writing, mistakes people make with videos, with their content. And I wrote it down, yes, content repurposing, also something very important, and time saving. So if you join us here today, just put any questions in the comments and we will get to them and answer them live for you here. So, as my guest today, I have Joe McKay, all the way from down under Australia. Will you introduce us? Welcome here. Good to have you. And yeah, tell us a little bit about yourself and how we connected.
Yeah, so you're right. I'm on the wrong side of the planet, down under here in just outside of Sydney, Australia. I'm a LinkedIn ghostwriter and content partner, so have spent more time than I'd probably care to admit on LinkedIn and thinking about creating content, and have recently really dived into the world of video content and wanted to upskill myself in that space, which is how we came to be connected. Went through your camera confidence program, really enjoyed it, learned heaps, and thought we should talk a little bit more about it in a live session. So here we are.
Yeah, that's excellent. So, what were the so you wanted to do more with video? What were you thinking about before you joined the program, and one or two takeaways that you had from that?
Yeah, so as I guess a ghostwriter, as a copywriter, the written word has always been my strong suit, I guess, and my focus for the content that I create. That's a sweet spot for me. But I'm really conscious that video is arriving in a really big way to LinkedIn, where other channels have been video led for a long time. LinkedIn is certainly moving in that direction really fast. So I knew that it was something, video content was something that I'd need to get more involved in and get more confident in. And I think as well, running a remote business, a lot of what I do, interactions with clients and sales calls and things like that, are essentially video calls. And it's a lot of the same process and approach. So really wanted to build my skills in that. I think to choose one takeaway that really stood out for me was the centering exercise that you do. I think it's day 3 maybe of the 10-day program.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd never thought about physically preparing to record a video. I thought about all the technical preparation and kind of knowing what you want to say and setting things up in the space, but actually taking the time to physically prepare to record video content was really interesting to me. So the group today might enjoy a bit of a centering exercise. I don't know if you've ever run a group centering exercise on the fly. What do you reckon?
Well, it is a bit tricky. So let me, for people who are like centering, what are they talking about
Yeah.
here? So it's like you said, it's good to think about the technical bits and bobs of all what comes to do with video, but it's really good to prepare yourself. So one of the things I do, and that also already helps with feeling more comfortable and confident on camera, is first doing really a physical warm up. It can be really short, but we are talking, but it's not just our voice or just not our heads. We bring our whole body to the presentation, whether it's on camera or on stage. So it's really good to do some stretches and roll your shoulders and like do some physical stretches or yoga exercises that you have to prepare you physically. So I always prepare my voice as well. And one of the other things that you mentioned is the centering practice. And what we see here, and I don't know if people are watching can let us know in the comments, is nowadays we are so much in our head. There's almost this bubble, like we are ahead and here's everything. And then there's our body. It's almost like a head on a stick. And we are so focused with our attention here. Whereas as you can go to your center, which is in the middle of your body, This comes from like yoga or fight sports like karate. I've worked with a lot of people who use this technique on the mat and then they step off the mat and they forget about it. But it helps to clear your mind and be more calm when you go down with your attention. So it's tricky to do the whole exercise when I can't see people, or I'd like to see what the feedback is or explain it more elaborately, which was about I think 30 minutes. So we don't have that time here, but a very quick and easy first step to get there is to focus on your breathing, because your center is inside your belly basically. It's the point that's called dantian or qi. So if you want to focus your attention there, you can focus on your breathing and make it sure it's lower breathing. And already that calms your nerves a little bit, if you take this slow, deep breaths. And some people find it easy at first to take a point in between their feet and have their attention there. So that's lower than your center, but at least it helps you get this attention out of this bubble where you get into overthinking, like, oh, don't I make a mistake? Did I say it right? What do they think of my accent? As you know, I'm Dutch. English isn't my native language. So there's a lot of people who have this as a struggle, like, what if they don't like my accent? What if I don't know a word? What if I forget how to say something? And that's all up here, and it builds up and it gets bigger and bigger. And it can really keep people from making videos because they're too much in their heads. So if you center, you can do this doing the slow breathing, or even just like picture something between your feet and put your attention there. That's not really the centering practice, but it helps you get out of this overthinking, these mind monkeys that just keep going on and on and on. So I hope that helps a little bit for people watching.
Yeah, it is hard to grasp it, I guess, in a couple of short minutes. But what I found, the act of sitting potentially alone in a room and recording video, trying to do that in a conversational way, it can feel a little bit unnatural because you don't have social cues or body language from someone who's listening to you. So I found the centering exercise really helped me to, as you said, get out of my own head and focus more on, I guess, the value that I'm adding through the content and kind of what I want to say, rather than all the other stuff around that. And the results, kind of the contrast of how I just would naturally appear and present, was really significant. So it's a great little practice for people to do.
Absolutely. And I think you hit a key point there. Like you want to appear naturally or actually just be yourself on camera. And it can be a bit uncomfortable at first. Just as you said, you're alone in the room, you're talking to a thing. And one of the things I find really helps me as well with feeling more confident and comfortable on camera is to realize, so we're here live now and we're here together, but if you're recording a video alone by yourself, you are not talking to a thing. It's not robotic. You're actually talking to a person. There's just a time delay between when you record it and when they see it. And if you think of it that way, and maybe you can imagine a person, your favorite client or your best friend, sitting across from you and nodding along, like you said, those body cues that they give, active listening. If you imagine that, already you can speak more conversationally. I always say, like, if you meet a potential client or someone and you meet up in a cafe, you don't have your text written, and you're with the person in the room and you're not saying like, hi, I am Else Wiener Rietveld and I am a confidence trainer. That's not how you just, or if you give tips or talk about your expertise in your work, you don't need to write it down word for word or think like, oh, I have to make this perfect. You just have this conversation with this person and you bring out your expertise. And that is a really good way to think about it. Like you're sitting in a cafe, someone is sitting across from you, and you are talking to them conversationally. So that is one of the tips I like as well. And that's a good point. So usually I see like I said, the timer, and if people are watching live, or maybe when I don't see when they are watching on the recording. But if you have any questions come up, let us know in the comments, or if you recognize this, if you feel like, oh, I feel now uncomfortable talking to a thing, or my biggest block is dot, dot, dot. So like it could be the accent, or not knowing words, or forget what I was going to say, like drawing a blank. What then? If there's anything specific you'd like us to go into, or on the content of content writing that Joe's about, or hook writing, anything, just let it know in the comments and we will get to that. So yeah, so I think those are really interesting, interesting points and takeaways to prepare yourself physically, to imagine it a conversation, and getting out of this overthinking too much. So
What would you say, Elsevine, is the most common mistake that you see people starting out making?
there are a few. So before starting, people often think they need to invest a lot before they can make videos. So they need to buy like a specific camera and an expensive microphone and a setup, whereas we all already have what we need. Our phones. If you have this, you can start making videos. The cameras nowadays are so good on the phone. They're sharp. The sound is usually good, or you can just use the earphones, or like you wear them with or without the thread or wireless. They are super. They have really good sound. So I sometimes record just like this. Or where's it's a small image here. So I record like this, or I put in my phones, and that's it. So the only thing if you use your phone regularly to make videos, I would invest in is a tripod, because if you make videos and then there's always a little bit of movement, and that's not giving a stable image. So from between 10 and $20, euros, whatever you have, you can have one, or maybe someone that doesn't use it a lot, you can borrow one to start out with. So that is one of the big things people have towards equipment. And the other big thing is they think they need to be perfect.
Yeah.
And I always say real is better than perfect. We want to connect with people. And, I've been making videos for 10 years and I still make mistakes. There's still things not going quite right. But I want to bring who I am across on camera, bring the warmth, the connection, share my expertise. And that is what people like. So even if they notice something going wrong, that makes you real and even more approachable than perfect. So that's really something to think, like the investment and thinking it need to be perfect. Otherwise you cannot share your video. Those are two things. So Karine is saying, I'm really interested in how to write good hooks, actually, both for the event description and for the actual video. Excellent question, Karine. So can I give this one to you first?
Yeah, absolutely. Corinne, thank you for the question. So I think the really interesting thing about using video content is, in many ways, it takes the pressure off your hook, like the written part of the hook, because the video itself and the thumbnail, that kind of opening screen on the video, is probably the most powerful hook. So it either might be you looking down the camera, it might be an interesting shot or moment from within the video. And so having video content can ease some of the tension around the hook. I think I look at two different approaches if you're talking about video content and how to create a good hook. The first is to think about the hook as really a title or a summary of the video, kind of what can someone expect. But I think the flip side to that is almost what I think of as an anti-title. So if you have a video that looks like it's about one thing and a hook that is intriguing but not obviously connected to what the video looks like it's about, that's a really strong call to action for someone to watch the video, read the written content, and try and figure out what's the disconnect here. So it's kind of like an open loop between the video itself and the written copy that goes with the post. So I think if you do something different, not in a completely confusing way, but more in an intriguing way, so tease something a little bit different with your written copy and in the hook versus what's going to come out in the video, I think that's a really powerful way to get someone to engage with the video, watch what's in there, and then jump into the written post to learn more. And that's where by that point, you've got a really captive audience. If they've watched your video, let's say it's up to a minute long, they've watched that and then they're clicking into LinkedIn to see more about the written copy that's with it. By that point, you've got their attention and you actually have the bandwidth to share a deeper message or make a strong call to action or make an ask of the reader. So I would think about how you can make your hook almost anti-related to the video or intriguing enough juxtaposed against the video to make someone want to watch and then read. And in terms of an event description and how to hook people into that, I think obviously having some form of banner and artwork that makes it clear who's at the event and what it's about. And then really importantly, for me, it's always answering the question, what's in it for me? What does someone attending the event, what can they expect to get out of joining? And bring that right up the front. And that is a key hook and why it's important, and explaining that. And you're spot on there. It's really about some dissonance, a slight disconnect. Our brains are trained to spot things that don't fit into the pattern of what we're expecting. And so if you can do that, if you can put something in front of someone that doesn't fit the pattern of what they're expecting, the brain just drags them into want to figure out what is this disconnect. So it's absolutely that dissonance idea. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah. Oh, that's excellent. I really, really like that. I see this. I've not been using StreamYard for a while, so the comment is here. It just showed me with a plus, so I thought I could see it. But now I can see I can bring the comments in the picture. That's good to know. Yes, thank you, Joe, for that. It's really interesting. And I like to also pique interest, like you said. I think it's also with the dissonance, if you have like a bold statement or something that people do not expect. For example, when it goes about video, the actor who was afraid of making her own videos. That's actually someone I interviewed for my book that I wrote, and she's an actress, and and now she's really good on camera, obviously. But at first, it's like this dissonance. You don't expect it because it's an actress. She's on camera. She's used to it, and even she described that it was so different to just know your lines and your role and be on a big camera screen, or put your phone or your laptop in front of you and talk about your own business, your own thing. At first, she said, like, I written down because I'm used to using scripts, but I sounded robotic and I didn't connect and I didn't like my own videos. And then it wasn't until she got more into like this, what we talked about before, being just conversational about it. And she was just like, oh, I just imagined my best friend and I was talking to her. And then things shifted so much. And then she could, of course, tap in to all her experience in front of the camera. But something like that could be a good hook as well. Like, you expect an actress to just fly with it and have no issues at all recording yourself on camera. And yet she did. So those kind of things, like what Joe said with the intrigue, and what is in it for them, those are big things, I think.
I think a couple of other things, just really simple to add in that definitely work as well. Things like numbers, really specific numbers. The brain is kind of triggered to figure out to read more about that. That kind of an open loop, an open-ended question or a question that you just want to kind of see the answer to, works really well. And then someone like Matt Barker does a lot of really good hooks. I think even just following some of the big creators and reading between the lines on how they're approaching their hooks is a really powerful way and then test and learn with your own audience and see what they're looking for and what resonates with them.
Yeah, excellent. I like that. Like 7 mistakes people make when they start out making videos, or like 5 things people need to know before they write their own content. Things like that. I like the numbers thing as well. Again, because it piques the interest and it feels doable as well. Like, oh, okay, these are 5 things I need to know, or 7 mistakes I need to avoid. So yeah, excellent. I really like that. Yeah, so maybe one of the things to address as well is what I also describe in my book and what's in my course is the pirate technique. Maybe we can talk a little bit about that, because I think it's a nice combination of the content writing and the hook, as well as anything can happen when you are live. So the pirate technique, or do you want to tell something about it, or shall I? Maybe you want to.
Look, I love mental models and acronyms and simple frameworks that kind of stick in the back of your brain. So the pirate method for running live videos just sticks, and I think those kinds of things are really helpful.
And
So
make a
it's
good
something
book,
that,
by the way, as well.
yeah, absolutely.
And the side, yeah.
So yeah, I think you should certainly take the audience through the pirate method, some of which is kind of in play right now for us as we run this live video.
Right. So, like you say, I love acronyms because it helps to remember things more easily. And I thought, well, the pirate technique is also a bit intriguing. Like, oh, there's a pirate technique of doing live videos. And very quickly, so there's a difference between recorded videos and live videos. And I have clients who say, like, oh, just let me go live. I know I'm on there and it's not a problem, whether it's with someone like this or just by myself. I just go with the flow and I'm perfect. But when I have to record, I start to overthink and I feel it needs to be perfect. And I start to overthink my words. And there are other people, I used to be that live was thinking about going live was out of the question. I was just too scared even to start making videos. So if you feel like that, I hear you. So I call myself a former deer in the headlights when it comes to public speaking and speaking on camera, because the first time I wanted to record a video, I just set up the camera and I walked out of the room. I didn't even press record. So if you feel like that, I can relate. So thinking about live, I couldn't even do that. I couldn't even do the recording. So live was a step too far away. So those are 2 things. I work with people who need help with recording more so, or people who want help with both, or say like, oh, I'm okay to record, but oh my goodness, when I go live, that's really not my thing. So the pirate technique for that is, first you prepare as optimally as you can your content and your tech. So especially live, make sure your internet connection is good, your camera is working, your sound is working. You can test all that beforehand. You have lights, so your face is well lit. Check your background, make sure everything is in place before you hit that live button. So for today, I've written down some notes. We might not go all over them, but I did prepare content and we looked at the tech before we hit this live button. So you prepare as optimally as you can. The I is interact with the comments. Sometimes I see people going live and then there are comments and they ignore them completely. And that really rubs me the wrong way, because people dedicate themselves, they show up, they comment, they think along, they ask a question or they have a comment, and then they're ignored. So of course, if it's a super busy live and there's like 50 comments, you won't have to address them all, but really take some time to read the question and answer it as best as you can. And that's the R. So because when people get the replay or when there's a lot of comments going on, people don't know who you're talking to. So if you say like, yes, Sam, that's an excellent question, or yes, indeed, that's right, Sam, and everyone goes like, oh, where's the comment from Sam? Or in the replay, like, what was it? So it's good to ask the question and then answer it. So it's a whole, so people understand what you're talking about. The A is ask for questions and interaction. So I could say like, I was scared making videos. Let me know in the comments. Is that something that comes up for you? I've done it a few times. You're not doing all the time, obviously, but you just ask people. And if you're on a Zoom, you can just ask them to like, oh, raise your hand if that's you. And you can just see a few hands going up and they feel there's interaction, that people are, they're more invested even in the life. Because if you don't do this, if you don't ask questions, if you don't answer them, you could just have made a recording and put it out there. So the really benefit of the live is this interaction, the reading and answering of the questions. And the T of the pirate technique is the timing. So sometimes people are mid-sentence, they see a comment pop up and they're like, oh, there's a comment, and they forget to finish their point, which was usually something we were looking forward to hearing. And then because of the question, it steers in a whole different direction and we forget what it is about. So time, when you do this, you could also, if you do an online training and you have like 3 parts, after each part you could go through the comments and answer them, or whatever feels good for you. But make sure that you can practice this a few times, because when this is your first time going live, it's like, oh, there's a question, and it feels so tricky to get on to that. So I did lost count. I've done at least over 500 lives over the years, in a lot on Facebook, and also there you see the comments popping up very quickly. So it's good to time when it works for you to answer the questions. And then the E is expected to go wrong. Not because we want like doom and gloom and like, oh, I'm sure it will all go wrong like that, but to stay alert and flexible and to fix it. So you address what is going on, and then you if you can fix it, fix it. So if the neighbors start drilling all of a sudden, don't pretend it's not happening. Say like, can you believe it? Every time I go live, it's as if they're listening. Then they start to drill, or maybe they don't. And then people say like, "Oh, I don't hear it." There's well, just before I was clicking on a comment because it was blurred, so I clicked it because I wanted to read the comment, but then it popped up in the screen, and I realized later. So I was like, "Oh, I didn't know I clicked that. I haven't used this software for a while." So people can relate to that because they have used software for the first time, and then they're like, oh, this could happen to me. So yeah, so that expected to go wrong, but from a place of being able to bounce back and fix it, rather than, oh, it will certainly go wrong. So just like I've gone live so many times, and things happen, like often like pets or kids or what, things can happen, like something in the closet could fall down, or I have my phone on silent always, but maybe I forget, and then the phone starts ringing. Just say like, oh, okay, let me just click this away and put my phone on flight mode, rather than, oh, I hope they don't hear my phone is ringing.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I really like the pirate method, and you're spot on. It's that idea of, I guess, hope for the best and prepare for the worst. In a way, whenever you're trying to do something like this.
yeah, that's a good concise summary.
And so you touched on this a little bit earlier, some of the limiting beliefs that people have around the equipment, the technology that you need to get started. And I think for me, I feel as though a lot of people watching will be going through a similar thing. For me, with my business, I am talking to a fairly sophisticated audience. It's a B2B service. I'm trying to talk to CEOs, founders. And so for me, one of the limiting beliefs that I faced is kind of related to the technology piece of how the video needs to look and feel, was really around the messaging, and it needs to be perfect, and it kind of needs to be nicely scripted and look and feel very, very professional, because that's I guess, my brand and what I'm trying to put out there. But I think actually flipping that around to being more relatable is the key. And day one, the very start of your program is around what are your limiting beliefs and getting all those out, thinking through them and tackling them head on. So that was something that really resonated with me because I was holding myself back from a brand point of view as someone who's proud of my brand and works with clients to help build their brands, kind of getting caught up in almost analysis paralysis around what the benchmark needs to be to get started, I think is such a fine line. And I'm
Absolutely.
sure I'm not the only one feeling that way.
No, definitely not. It's very, very common. And um, in this strive of perfectionism, that's really, yeah, that can hold us back so much. Whereas it actually might be better. So, of course, you won't be a total screw up or mess up because you are an expert and you have a lot of things that you are very knowledgeable about. But it doesn't mean every little thing needs to be perfect. And even if you manage to get it like that, I think potential clients wouldn't resonate with that so much because the distance feels so big that it feels uncomfortable even to them. So I really like your take on that. It's like as we said, like the real is better than perfect. We connect with people that way. Yeah, about the B2B image. We sometimes think, sorry, Corinne says, that's really interesting about the B2B image. And it is. It's and we can caught up in this and it can stop us from doing that. So what if you say, like, I work with B2B clients and you do ghostwriting? Can you tell a little bit more about what clients come to you, what you help them with specifically on this writing? People,
Yeah, absolutely. So look, I think where we are now, a lot of people that are active on LinkedIn are starting to tap into and realize the potential that it's got as a marketing channel, as a channel to develop your business, grow your career, find opportunities without, diving into the world of like reviewing job descriptions and submitting CVs. And so I think LinkedIn's a really interesting space to be. And there's a lot of people now who have cottoned on to the value of it as a platform, but then are struggling either with time or with know-how or with things to talk about or write about, which means they get a little bit stuck. Very similar to the idea of creating video content. It's hard to know where to start sometimes, and there can be a lot of limiting beliefs that hold people back. So I really work with founders or consultants in service-based industries to build their personal brand and create thought leadership content on LinkedIn. And the objective of that is to grow their business, is to find new business opportunities and new potential clients to connect with. It's also about telling their story, and it becomes a confidence building activity as well. Seeing your story and your experiences and your anecdotes packaged up and shared with the world in a really nice, appealing way makes you feel good, makes you feel like less of an imposter sometimes, and can help with confidence for those people, for my clients, as they're going about their work and building their businesses. So I absolutely love it. I love hearing people's stories. I run a podcast, which is an interview-based podcast. I love asking interesting questions and hearing interesting answers, and helping people tell their stories. So that's a little bit about me and what I do.
yeah. So, and if you look at like a tip for writing, so what are some mistakes people make if they write their own content, and how can they avoid that? Like one or two tips that you maybe have for them?
Yeah, there's a lot of similarities with the video space. I think a lot of people do get hung up on writing the perfect piece and not sharing anything until they feel like it's 100% ready and they're sure it's going to land well with their audience. I've written hundreds of LinkedIn posts, and some of the ones that I think are the best and that I'm so confident are really well written and really interesting and really engaging disappear. Nothing happens. And some of the ones that I quickly just fire off because I'm working on a deadline go really well. And so I think the biggest mistake people make is not committing to posting, not committing to sharing. They get too caught up in analysis paralysis, and I talk about FOPO, fear of posting online. It's a real thing and closely related to imposter syndrome, but holds people back. They're worried about what that person they used to work with will say or will think about them when they read this post that's a little bit different.
True. That's
Why
so common.
why is Elsevier posting this now? Is she looking for a job? What's she doing? I think the fear of other people's opinions is a
Yeah.
massive limiting belief.
Yeah.
So
And
that's the big
whereas
mistake.
usually they don't think that, right? We think they think that, but they just think about themselves and their issues, and they're not thinking like, why did she post that? No, they're just focusing on their own issues.
Yeah, nobody cares about it as much as we do.
Yeah, that is
No one out
absolutely
there
true.
is watching as closely as what we are, and talking to ourselves as much as we are. So I think getting started and just trying to commit to being confident to publish is a key thing that I would suggest people do if they're starting out.
Yeah, so if you're watching this live or on the replay, let us know in the comments if these are some things that you can relate to, or that maybe used to be you and not anymore, or if you have another tip that helped you overcome this, or if you're still at this stage of, actually, I love it, FOPO, the fear of posting online just because of maybe it's not perfect, or what would other people think of this, and then you write this post and you put it online and everything is still the same. Nothing has changed. And maybe, that could be actually a good thing. So very sometimes there are trolls and haters. So how do you deal with that? For video, of course, they talk about like maybe it's like a stupid video or how you look. I haven't had it happen. I think I can't recall, but I know it does happen. And same for written content. I sometimes see a comment from someone that I think like you could just have scrolled on. But like that could be something like, oh, but what if people write hateful comments to me? So, and what if it actually happens? So, do you have a tip for that if someone has a
Yeah,
nasty
so
comment?
look, this happened to me. I definitely had, when I started posting regularly on LinkedIn, I had a couple of people that I used to work with in my network that would show up with sarcastic comments, taking pot shots, trying to tear me down, I guess. That persisted for a few posts, a couple of weeks. But what continued long after they'd given up was messages of support, people reaching out to me privately saying they loved what I was sharing. And so I think, the goal of content is to make people feel something. And if you're doing that, I think that's a positive. And, for me, it's just about having kind of that maturity and the wisdom to step back and say, none of this is about me. It's about them. And it's an issue that they're working through. And it's much more of a reflection on the commenter than on you for something that you're sharing. If you're sharing in the right spirit, and it's not anything that's designed to be provocative or inflammatory, I guess I would say. So it can be hard, and it's kind of everyone's worst nightmare. But 99.9% of the time, it won't happen.
True. And there's a few things to this. I think first is we focus so much, like we have 99 positive comments and one hateful comment, and we're like, oh no, we've got a hateful comment. So like you say, like there's what kept going on were the messages of support. Same with video. People think like, oh, what if they hate when I share a video? Or you maybe not like it too much. We're also always our own worst critic. So I know so many people saying, oh, I didn't like the video, and I posted out there and everybody was positive, like, so good to hear you talk. I love seeing your face. This is so good and inspirational. And so it's very much positive. But if you get this negative comment, there are a few things that you can do. If it's really like really negative, bad, in a way, you can delete a comment and block the connection or disconnect if it is the first connection. You can also answer because people read, and like you said, it reflects on them more than it reflects on you. So sometimes you can, depends on the comment, you can write another comment, never apologize, nothing like that. But if you can feel you can give a reasonable response, you can, or you can just ignore it. And I know it's hard because we tend to sort of focus on this one nasty comment that we get. But also, like, I have a folder in my emails, and I save all recommendations and positive feedback, and just people saying like, "Oh, I really love this, this, and this," or "You helped me with this." And so there's this, or you could do it in a file or wherever you want to save it. But with all these positive things, put them in a place as well. And if you feel like it drags you down a little bit with this negative comment, go to that place, to that folder, and scroll and browse through a little bit of all those people who actually benefit from your work. So they're probably not your ideal client anyway. They might be jealous of that you stepped out there and make a video or write this content piece and they didn't. Whatever, like Joe said, it's what's going on for them, and it's not to do with you usually. So that is something to keep in mind. One more thing we wanted to address today is content repurposing. Do you want to start off with that one?
Yeah. So I used to think repurposing was a bit of a dirty word. I used to think it was cheating. I used to think, original, new, fresh stuff all the time was what separated good creators from great creators. And I think there is an element of truth to that. But for me, repurposing is a really important way to actually improve the level of your content. Because if you take something that you've already shared, an idea, and you, I guess, adapt it, evolve it based on the feedback that you get on it, whether that's through comments or engagements, that's actually what improves the quality of what you're sharing. And I think so long as you do it in a smart way, and you kind of don't overdo it, it's a really effective part of building a great library of content that you can use and that you can be flexible with. What do you think about repurposing?
Yeah, I think even repeat and repurpose. So over time, I build my video library. So if you start out and you make a video, save it somewhere. Because also not everyone sees your content. Back in 2021, when I wrote my book, I was really doing a big launch about it. I was posting a few times per day. Someone said like, people don't see everything that you post, so do it. So I on different platforms, I was really posting like maybe 4 or 5 times a day on LinkedIn for 2 weeks, and as a big launch like project. And then I spoke to someone, and I said, my book, and they were like, your book? And I'm like, so you feel like, oh, I've been doing it so much. So even if you write something or if you post a video, a lot of people haven't seen it. So if you save your video, in 6 months, you can share the same video and there will be new people seeing it. There's also this thing of people needing to hear something about 7 times before it really lands for them or they take action on it. So if you say a really good piece of something only one time, the effect is less. So I think there's this basic work that we have, and I love the idea of like writing it a little bit differently, or then make a video about it, and then do maybe like 5 mistakes people make around it, or 5 things you need to do. That is sort of the opposite of the list that you had before. So you work around the same content, but in the basis, people need to hear information more often to really make it their own, or finally think, I think we've all been there, like, you hear something and now you take action, but you're like, this is not the first time I've heard this, but now it clicked. And you never know when it clicks for people. And the cool thing is, I always say, like, if you've written a post, you could do a video on the same topic. Or if you've made a video, you could write a post about the same topic. You can also sort of repurpose the content. So what I do is when I make videos, I write down just one word that the video is about. I make short videos, just said it before, like up to a minute is ideal because people don't have time to watch a 7 or 10-minute video here on LinkedIn. But if you have like 50 seconds, a minute, they will watch the video and take away what you've said. So I write down a list and I batch record my videos. So I build my library more quickly. And as we talked about before, you know, you do maybe a warming up, stretches for your body, warm up your voice, set your lights, etc. So why not make 5 short videos instead of just one? That is time saving tip. So you build your library, but also I have my list. A tip I give often is make eye contact through the lens. You see us doing this, you know, when it's right, when you're watching this, you feel like we're talking to you. We're not, sometimes we look down or we look to the side, but we're not constantly just looking down at the other person, because then we don't have the eye contact. Or if you just make it by yourself with your phone, you look to the side, you miss this eye contact. So that's a big tip I give. I still see even experienced video makers, they're talking like this, and I'm like, hello, I'm over here. Where are you looking at? Right? So I think I might have 7 different videos around the topic of eye contact. So it's repurposing the idea of make a video about eye contact, but every video is different. And I've written posts about it as well. And sometimes I had like the don't, or the negative approach, like don't look away from the camera, or most important tip, or what people do wrong mostly. So it's all repurposing of this concept of eye contact, and you can really do this. And one other thing with video you can do is, if you have captions, you can order a transcript and then just rewrite, because written language is different from spoken language. So usually you cannot just take the transcript and put it online, but you can take out a little part of this and rewrite so it sounds good as a written post, and repurpose it that way. So
yeah, there's a lot of different possibilities. I think it's, like I said, it's a necessary part of kind of showing up regularly as a creator, and actually reaching your audience and helping the message sink in, because also your audience is changing, growing over time. There'll be people that weren't following you or engaged with you when you last talked about it. So refreshing and repurposing content is super important, I think.
Yeah, I think as well. So I did, I did write some notes. I think we've covered most of what we wanted to cover today. Is there anything you think we should still address today, or that you wanted to add?
I think so. Boiling it all down, like you've got your program, you've got your book, there's a whole bunch of resources out there. What would be your number one tip for someone to feel more comfortable on camera?
I think that is what we talked about before, is imagine you're talking to a real person, however you can make that work. So I know someone who prints out a picture and hangs it behind the camera, but I think if you step away from the idea I'm talking to a thing, it has to be perfect, but just bringing in this conversation with this person, and then it takes away the edge, I think, because you're just being conversational with a real person, rather than I have to do this now and everything has to be perfect. So that, I think that's the number one thing, is to look through the lens of the camera as if you actually can see this person as you are nodding and listening now. Just imagine someone is listening to you like that.
Great advice.
And what would you say on that topic?
Yeah, I agree. I think that really helps. I think practice makes perfect as well. You know, you're not going to get better unless you're trying, unless you're going through the process, filming, doing some bad ones, doing some slightly better ones, and working your way up that way. So I think get started and try to stick with it.
Yeah. And I think if people want to get help with that, they can of course reach out to me, because it's like if you train for a marathon, you cannot just go out, run once around the block, and then you're ready to run a marathon. It takes time, practice, and you do it more and longer. You get better at it, your muscles grow. And if you have a coach who gives you advice and tips, you get there faster than when you do it all by your own. But you can totally do it. So you can see how is my situation, what does feel good to me. But it indeed, like you say, practice and doing it more often really helps in getting better at it, for sure. But like with what you said with the writing, it can help, to get some help and coaching. There's a question coming in about the LinkedIn Live screen is saying, yeah, so if you're on Facebook, you can go live directly in Facebook. Just there's a button and say go live and you press it. But LinkedIn doesn't have that. You need a third-party app and then stream it onto LinkedIn. And as you can see, I'm using StreamYard. I think they have a paid version, a free version as well. I have a paid version. There's different options that you can use. But StreamYard is the most used software. And the thing is, we're now at the same time, we're streaming this to Facebook and to YouTube. And you can connect different channels and have this one recording and put it out on different places. So, Corinne, I think StreamYard, there might be something else, something, I don't know, but I heard about this and this is what I use and what I know. So you can Google if there are other platforms maybe. But StreamYard is often used. I've been on podcast interviews. I've done LinkedIn Lives with other people, and they have all used StreamYard. But I'm not sure if there's something else. But StreamYard is good. I like it. So yeah. Well, I think we've covered a lot today. If anyone is watching this on replay and feels like, oh, I really love some help with my LinkedIn profile and writing tips, or a ghostwriter, connect with Joe, send him a message, and just reach out, connect, and see if he can help you. And same for me. Like I said, if you can totally Google or watch this live and then implement it and start your own videos. And if you want to think like, oh, I want to go there faster, we talked about the 10-day video training I have that Joe went through with a lot of practical tips for like camera confidence, content, going live, everything is in it. Yeah, connect with me, reach out to me, and we are always happy to help. Karen says, thank you so much. Thank you, Corinne. I hope I won't try to pronounce your last name. It sounds maybe it's Zbinden. I probably pronounced it wrong. I know people always pronounce my name wrong, but I hope Corinne was the right way to say your first name. Thank you so much for being here and engaging. If you're catching this on the replay, feel free to put your comments in here, tag us, and we can answer your questions then. For now, I wish you a wonderful day and good luck, and just don't keep overthinking. Put out that post, put out that video, and we look forward to seeing it. Swiss. I love Switzerland is actually my dream country. So maybe we can connect and talk about that. I speak Swiss German, so maybe we can talk about that another time. Have a wonderful day, and I look forward to connecting with you online.
Thank you, Josephine. See you, everyone. Bye-bye.